Hey people, welcome to the video. This video talks about the recent Battle for Azeroth Q&A and PvP news, such as how Conquest Points will work, the new large Battleground feature found in the alpha, and a recent forum post stating the idea of a 1v1 skirmish and a Blizz rep's reply. There will be links in the description to the Q&A video and another link to a wowhead page regarding the large Battleground and 1v1, and also timestamps that can take you to each component of the video. So let's start with the Q&A. We already know from previous news that Conquest Points will return in the form of a bar we have to fill, very similar to Honor Points. I have done a video on this and it will also be in the description. The recent Q&A just elaborates a bit more on how it will all work. So check it out, there will be a timestamp below to skip this Q&A clip.
Comes from Rick Rose, who asked, how will gearing in PvP work in Battle for Azeroth? Will it be random as it was in Legion, or will we see the return of vendors?
So there will still be a random reward structure in BFA PvP, whether it's end of match rewards or weekly chests that are dependent upon your rating with what they contain. But we also have very much heard the feedback, and we agree that in PvP especially, there's a lot of value to more deterministic, predictable gearing, and that people miss just saving up Conquest Points, going to a vendor, buying your next item. And so the extra thing that's overlaid on top of that is throughout each season, there's going to be a weekly Conquest progression, where every week, as you earn Conquest Points, you will get the next piece of gear in a series, which is very similar. So it's not a vendor, but it's basically what the vendor amounted to, especially if you remember back in the day when individual pieces would have total conquest requirements for how much you had to earn in the season before you could purchase them. So you needed to earn, 20,000 whatever before you could buy your weapon.
Right.
And generally there was this natural progression of the order in which you'd get the pieces. You might get your helm first, so down the line. And so that's the plan. Over the course of a Battle for Azeroth PvP season, week 1, the end of the week, you'll get a PvP helm. Week 2, you might get pants. Week 3, shoulders, etc. Exact gear slots to be determined.
Right.
Culminating in weapon, and then perhaps continuing at a higher tier of gear as you get deeper on into the season. But the goal is to guarantee that with time investment and dedication to the system, everyone will get the full set of gear. And then that can be complemented or accelerated through the random rewards. But no one should feel like, well, they're just continually unlucky and just are never going to get the piece that they want.
What about catching back up in the sense of, like, say I missed the first couple of weeks of the season, but I still want to get back into PvP? What happens in that case?
Exactly. There will be free catch-up with some acceleration. So if you think of it as like there's a weekly conquest cap, effectively. When you fill your conquest bar, you get the reward. If you come in week 3 or you miss a couple of weeks, then you'll just be able to, in the course, however long it takes you to do, earn the conquest with a bit of acceleration along the way to get caught up to where the rest of the people are in that season. So it's hopefully a more straightforward presentation. I think by just doing it through the UI and the rewards, we remove some of the abstraction of saving up a currency and going to a vendor and buying the pieces and the old, the 2 different conquest caps we used to have and the catch-up system.
Right.
It should just be a bit more transparent in general. But at TLDR, we understand the desire for predictable PvP gearing, and Battle for Azeroth should be a massive improvement in that regard.
Yeah, just being able to look at that next piece of gear and go, okay, if I win 10 more games, I'm going to get that piece of gear. That's a big deal. I'm super excited for that.
So let's start with the positives. So if you PvP enough each week, you are guaranteed a PvP gear. Throughout the week, you may be able to get more PvP gear through the random rewards of PvPing. If you miss a few weeks of the season, there is a catch-up system in place that is accelerated. The way it works, for example, let's say you start 2 weeks behind. Now usually you can only fill up your conquest bar once a week and get your gear. Now this is how I have understood it. If you disagree or actually know how it works, please leave a comment and a link pointing all of us to the right direction. So when behind, every time you fill up the bar, it resets and you are given the chance to fill it up again until you catch up to the current week. For me, that's how I took it. Now the negatives. So what Ian disclosed to us wasn't negative at all. It was more along the lines of what he didn't disclose. The guaranteed PvP gear each week. In the previous news video I did, I said and hoped that you can fill the conquest bar more than once a week. With this Q&A, it does seem more likely that won't happen, and you are at the mercy of random rewards to get the better gear faster. Another thing Ian didn't disclose is what of the players who do high rated arenas and rated battlegrounds. Will they get the gear faster? Now in my opinion, they should have the ability to get the gear faster for the level of PvP bracket they're in. But this won't work anyways if we are guaranteed one piece of gear a week and the rest is random. So I am going to try something new here, so don't mind the really shitty paint stills. Now I have an idea on how the system should work, keeping the idea of having the whole set released already and you can unlock it one by one. Now these are just some random numbers, so please don't take it too seriously. So let's say the weekly amount is 1000 Conquest Points to get your piece of gear. Now for each BG or skirmish win gives you about, let's say, 25. And for a loss gives you 15. Now overall you need about 40 wins to get a piece of gear. Now I know what you think, it's quite a lot, but this idea is for the ability to keep grinding PvP gear like the old days. If you don't put in the work, you won't get the rewards. Instead of being capped at one piece of gear a week and the rest is random. Now here are other ways to get conquest points faster. They should reintroduce the Battlegrounds of the week. So every time you queue up and win, you get double the points. So, well, roughly double. So 25 for win. If you queue up for the week, the highlighted BG of the week, it gives you 40 conquest points for the win instead. This makes it around 20 to 24 wins to get a PvP gear. Now when it comes to high rated battlegrounds and arenas, they're probably the only two ways you can get more conquest points for losing. So let's say you're above 750 to, let's say, 1800 rating, either one. If you lose, instead for only getting 15 conquest points, when you lose you get maybe, I don't know, 20 conquest points. And for winning you get 75 for winning. So this does give high rated hardcore PvPers the chance to get their gear faster, to stay on top of the game and stay competitive. Now on to the next part of our video, which talks about the large battleground option in the PvP tab in the alpha. Now this is a really cool thing. It takes out the large scale 40 vs 40 man BGs and puts it into its own bracket. What's even cooler is they are planning to add old large world PvP events into the same queue, such as Winter Grasp and the like. All these BGs will be getting a rework to add some longevity to the matches, as they want it to feel like a war. My theory is they're gonna add some warfront features into them. Ashran has been taken off the queue list with no further information, but the likelihood of its returning is high. Most likely it's being reworked like the rest of the large scale PvP maps. Now here's a clip of the Q&A talking about this matter. Now there is a timestamp in the description to skip this clip, which is just the timestamp that starts the 1v1 information.
A question from Binary, who asked, what is the plan for large battlegrounds now that they have been split from the normal battleground queue? So a lot of people have noticed in the alpha / beta that a couple of the larger battlegrounds have now been split off into a separate queue. What's going on there?
So yeah, I think in an upcoming build, those will be retitled Epic Battlegrounds. Ultimately, I think when it comes to PvP queuing, unlike Dungeons, which are all offering relatively the same experience in terms of, tank, healer, 3 DPS, going through a certain environment, there's a massive difference between what Alterac Valley entails and what Warsong Gulch entails, whether you're fighting mobs versus fighting players, the overall just feel of the entire experience. And when you queue up for something, it's not really fair to assume that you're interested in either of those two things interchangeably. So a lot of people are using blacklisting as a tool to, choose what they effectively didn't want to do, which also had effects on queue times and matchmaking. So currently the plan is to pull out those two 40v40 battlegrounds into their own bucket, there's no more blacklisting, so you either queue for the smaller group of battlegrounds, or the smaller scale battlegrounds, or the large ones.
Okay.
And I think this epic battleground queue is something we'd like to expand going forward. If you think back to, old larger scale experiences in the outdoor world like Wintergrasp or Tol Barad, those could certainly find a home in this large battleground bucket. Some retuning probably involved and rescoping of those to sort of fit into, a structure and a certain expected battleground length. But I think that could be a place for that content to really live on in a more relevant way than it is right now, where it's mostly for people who are hunting old achievements and just, going back for kicks.
This is an idea that I was talking about on a podcast like 7 years ago now, before I was even at Blizzard. So I'm actually super excited to see this happening, because just another...
Now some juicy information in regards to a 1v1 bracket. Now this information came from a forum post made by Herbatplum. Herbert, that guy. Now I won't read the post, there will be a link below that takes you to it. It can also be accessed by the wowhead link I had given. But what it suggests is a 1v1 skirmish type arena queue that has no rewards, but it just allows us to 1v1, hashtag solo queue. It got a lot of positive responses, even drawing attention from a game designer, going by the name Phalanx, which he says, we have an unannounced feature that may just be up your alley. I'm definitely looking forward to this, as I love my 1v1s. That's all for now, guys. Thank you for viewing the video. Show me some love by liking and subbing, and have a good day.